Yo, Big D here on I don't know if you call it a special Fat Tuesday, a crazy Fat Tuesday, or maybe more so if you're a baseball fan like me, a sad Tuesday here on the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. Before I tell you why I'm sad, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can see all my content. All the good, bad, and ugly. I mean, sure, tonight's video is going to suck, but you can look back at all the laughs we've enjoyed. Also, check out the Big D podcast on Spotify and Apple. So, oh boy, sometimes you experience moments you never thought would happen, but have huge consequence. And today, we got one of those in Major League Baseball. This afternoon, roughly an hour and a half ago, the MLB Players Association and the union were unable to agree on a new collective bargaining agreement, meaning the first two series of the 2022 MLB season have already been canceled, and with both sides now breaking apart, Lord knows when each side will get together and whether more games or potentially even a whole stretch of the season will be canceled. As a baseball fan, this news guts me. It hits me straight in the what. I mean, baseball's been my sport. I mean, yeah, most of my videos have been about football, soccer, golf, but I'm a baseball guy through and through. And to hear that MLB will not start on time and the season will not only be delayed but shortened absolutely frustrates me. I cannot believe that the 2022 season will not be 162 games. It absolutely annoys me, frustrates me that the owners and players are unable to agree on a new CBA. And actually, coming into this week, yesterday, was supposed to be the day where both sides needed to agree on a new contract because the union had set Monday as the unofficial deadline for agreeing on a new CBA so that the new 2022 season can start with open day on March 31st. Well, talks went beyond like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning last night in Jupiter. So both sides came back and the union set a 5 o'clock deadline where if no deal was in place, games were going to come off the calendar. Well, this afternoon, like 3:30, the union sent the MLB Players Association, its final offer. And here are a couple tidbits of that deal. The one big issue, and potentially the biggest reason why there is no CBA in place, MLB offered competitive balanced tax rates of $220 million in 2022, 2023, 2024, with a $4 million increase to $224 million in 2025 and a CBT of $230 million in 2026, meaning the competitive balance tax would be at $220 million for 3 years before going up $4 million in 2025 and then another $6 million the year after that. The MLB Players Association wanted a CPT of $238 million for this year, $244 million for 2023, $250 million for 24, $256 for 2025, and $263 million for 2026. So you can see why there's no CBA. Because the owners offered $220 million for this year, the PA wanted $238 million. So that's already an $18 million difference. That's a pretty significant difference when you talk about ratifying or completing a new CBA. And that number balloons because MLB's proposal really doesn't increase until 2025 when the PA's proposal raises the CBT pretty significantly. So by the time the end of the CBA would have been completed, MLB's CBT competitive balance tax would be $230 million, while MLB's competitive balance tax, the Players Association competitive balance tax would be $263 million. So the gap goes from $18 million this year to $33 million at the completion of the CBA. And yes, you're probably wondering, Dylan, what is competitive balance tax? Yes, there's no salary cap in MLB compared to the NHL or NFL with all salary caps. I almost compare MLB's competitive balance tax a lot with the NBA's luxury tax system because, yeah, the NBA features a salary cap, but they've also got a luxury tax structure where if you go over the luxury tax, you spend way more money for on your roster. In MLB, yeah, there's no cap, but the competitive balance tax makes it a huge burden for teams to stay under that radar. This year's CBT was $210 million, and the San Diego Padres and the LA Dodgers were over that, so they're going to have more money for their CBT. It's not a salary cap, it's more of a hard cap where teams want to spend money but might be hesitant on spending so much money they actually exceed that threshold. So it sort of limits what some of the teams do because teams want to win, but you want to spend 250, 300, 350 million on players. So the CBT was arguably the biggest issue, and I think a large reason why the CBA was not completed this evening. Another interesting point is the minimum salary, and to me, I think this is probably issue number 2 why there's no CBA. Because yes, we talk about some of these top guys making huge amounts of money. A Bryce Harper, a Mike Trout, Manny Machado, Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole making gobs of money. But how about that rookie just breaking into the big leagues? Because now this affects him because you look at it with the minimum salary, the MLB, the union offered minimum salary increase to $700,000 for this year and going up $10,000 every year for the subsequent 4 years, meaning the minimum salary would go from $700K to $740,000 in 2026. The Players Association wanted a $725K minimum salary this year, $745K next year, $765K in 2024, $765K plus potential other numbers in 2025, and then the same increase for 2026. So potentially a minimum salary that goes to $800,000 or somewhere in between. So again, you can see another sticking point where both sides weren't able to come together. I'm trying to think of another one, and I I just can't believe that neither side, whether it be the owners or players, come together. Now, whether you blame Commissioner Manfred and the owners, or whether you blame the players, you can see why there's so much frustration. You can see why there's so much bickering between each other. And third, potentially another third key issue is the potential introduction of the pre-arbitration bonus pool. Now, if you're a sports guy like me, or even not a sports guy like me, you've probably never heard of a pre-arbitration bonus pool. Well, this is something that's never been tried really in any sport. So what this would mean is guys who perform well in their rookie year would be eligible for more money. So, for instance, if one of the Pittsburgh Pirates won Rookie of the Year, well, he would be eligible for part of that pool. Or if one of the Texas Rangers finished second or won the MVP, well, he's got a chance. Well, he would get more of that money. And the union offered $30 million with no increases throughout the CBA, while the Players Union Association won an $85 million pre-arbitration bonus pool with $5 million annual increases that would widen the gap from $55 million to $75 million by the end of the CBA. So again, this is a little funky that there would have been some kind of a bonus pool from 0 to 3 guys, because you look at it, I think one of the big issues with this was thrown because at the time Cubs third baseman Chris Bryant was kept in the minors for an extra 2, 3, 4 weeks because the Cubs wanted to get that extra year of control because they could work the system where the Cubs could keep Bryant in AAA, and until then he wouldn't be on the payroll and wouldn't count against his service time. So then theoretically, instead of having him for 6 years, the Cubs could control him for 7 years. And it's a way that MLB has kept its stars from the big leagues. I remember Ronald Acuna, heck, even Mike Trout and Bryce Harper kept in the minors an extra couple of weeks. So, I mean, you imagine if the Cleveland Cavaliers kept LeBron in the D League back in 2000, D League or the G League now, because of having him or potentially losing him in a year sooner, or in the National Football League, the Jacksonville Jaguars potentially keeping Trevor Lawrence or deactivating Trevor Lawrence, or in the NHL with the Washington Capitals with not having Alexander Ovechkin, or the Penguins not having Sidney Crosby when they were ready as kids. It just feels weird. I mean, if your prospect's good enough to play in early April, mid-May, why can't he play? So one of the interesting tidbits about this is they could, depending on what would have happened, if he would have finished like Rookie of the Year, even if he only played like 50 games, 50 games, that player could still count for a whole year of service time. So even if he only plays 50 or 60 games, that player could still basically collect the whole year of service time and potential bonus. So you look at, yes, the deal would have been bigger for the Bryce Harpers, Mike Trouts, but it also could have been big for that rookie or young player trying to establish himself in the big leagues, because you look at it now, next to 150, 200 Ks, nights when you're 21 years old. not making anything before your arbitration or you get a big contract. So obviously, it's a tough day for baseball. Hopefully, both sides can figure it out and we don't lose any more in the season. But unfortunately, I think this is just a start. I feel more games are going to be canceled. And I don't think it will happen, but I am fearful that there's a replay of the 2004 2005 NHL season that was entirely lost due to no CBA. And hopefully, we don't see anything like that. Hopefully, this lockout ends quickly and we can see all baseball heroes perform their tricks because I not only feel bad for the players, but I feel bad for the fans because the fans spend their hard-earned money for these games, and I feel bad for the workers because take somebody like me because I enjoy spring training. I enjoy doing the video board for the Boston Red Sox. I love talking with people. I enjoy baseball. I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball. And plus, what am I going to do without my Dippin' Dots? That gum Dippin' Dots. Oh no! I'm screwed. Oh no! And also look at some of these cities because I think of the city that hosts the CBA means today, Jupiter on the East Coast. Jupiter has got two MLB teams, the Marlins, St. Louis Cardinals, and Miami Marlins training there. So without that money, Jupiter's economy is not going to be what it usually is every spring training. So again, in these tough times, hopefully MLB can figure it out. Otherwise, I'm not sure the sport will ever recover. I don't think the NHL's recovered from the 04-05 lockout, and hopefully baseball doesn't have a replay of other events because you think back to when games were lost, 72 games were lost, 81 games were lost, 94-95 is probably the worst example when not just games lost, but the entire postseason and World Series lost. And hopefully we don't see anything like that because I think we need America's pastime because it seems like in any kind of negative event in our world, baseball's always there. And right now, baseball's not here. So hopefully it happens too soon because I miss it already. I don't know what I'm going to do without baseball for the foreseeable future. So, all right, enough of all that negativity. If you know what to, if you're a, I don't know what to say. If you pay attention to calendars or dates, you would know that March 1st, 2022 is Fat Tuesday before 6 weeks of Lent. So you know what that means. Everybody parties. I mean, haven't you heard of Mardi Gras? I mean, when we were all kids in college, we would, I mean, not me, but I bet you there'd be a few party animals down Bourbon Street in New Orleans, maybe getting their last beignet or last margarita before no booze or sweets for the next 6 weeks. But that's and one thing I love about Mardi Gras is all the beads you can get. I'm not sure you can see my background, but I've got a whole bunch of beads in the background. So I figure with Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, and a New Orleans theme, I would come up with a very interesting trivia question about New Orleans sports tonight. So here it is. Which New Orleans Saints player intercepted Brett Favre and Peyton Manning? Yes, Brett Favre and Peyton Manning en route to the New Orleans Saints winning Super Bowl 44. That's easy, at least for me. You remember Tracy Porter? You remember? Yes. Tracy Porter intercepted a pass from Favre in the last few seconds of regulation during the Minnesota Vikings and Saints NFC Championship game, which the Saints won in overtime. And then in the Super Bowl, with the Saints up by 7, Porter not only intercepted a Peyton Manning pass, but he returned it for a pick six. How about that? You not only intercept passes in consecutive playoff games, but you pick off Brett Favre and Peyton Manning. Brett Favre and Peyton Manning. Tracy Porter doesn't have to buy a drink in New Orleans ever again. In fact, he might have a beignet. In fact, he might have to buy a beignet. But I just think it's so interesting that Tracy Porter intercepted passes from two NFL legends in consecutive playoff games, and not just playoff games, the NFC title game and the Super Bowl, and that the Saints got their one and only Super Bowl. So Drew Brees, Sean Payton, if there's somewhere in New Orleans tonight, I mean, maybe we can have a drink, maybe a beignet, and just remember Tracy Porter. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I mean, hopefully MLB can get its act together and we can have baseball soon. But we'll be here. I've got a fun interview with them all. You're not going to want to miss. And we've got a whole bunch of content, videos coming. It's March, so you know it's going to be maddening. It's going to be fun. We'll be there to cover it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.